Hi there, and a happy new year! Just as we are starting to feel comfortable with our banner predictions, Mika decided to humble us all by pushing forward the release of Lewis. After all, you can't let the community think they've got you figured out. Lewis is a fire character who, gasp, uses a machine gun. I had almost forgotten that weapon type existed. While she is a DPS who can become a powerful carry at full investment, she doesn't replace Chiwa in a monoburn team. Instead, she either complements Chiwa in a luxury lineup or fits comfortably into mixed element compositions. In this showcase from Snows, we'll see Lewis at V6 in one such setup, combining the Hydro and Burn cores. As usual, there are important differences between her baseline and fully invested kit, and I'll point those out as we go along. Without further ado, let's get into it. At the start of battle, Lewis's passive activates, consuming her Confectance Index to gain thermal conduction and to attach tin soldiers to the two nearest allies from her position. By default, this only selects burn type dolts, but Lewis can equip a fixed key that lifts that restriction. The tin soldier gimmick is the core mechanic of Lewis's kit and requires quite a bit of explanation, so please bear with me as I walk you through it step by step. Let's jump ahead to Vector's first support action. As she deals burn damage, she gains 1 stack of merit. This effect occurs for the two allies with the tin soldiers, but only if they deal burn damage. If available, Lewis consumes 4 stacks at the end of the round to rank them up, starting from rank 1 up to rank 3. As Vector uses her as 1, she gains a 2nd stack of merit. Following this active skill, the tin soldier triggers its own attack Volley Fire, here translated as Salvo, dealing 100% of Lewis's attack as single target burn damage, or 120% if at least we won. This means that the tin soldiers scale off Lewis's stats. The multiplier is increased by 10% based on the soldier's rank. This attack also restores 1 Confectance point for Lewis, which she needs for her ultimate. With 2 soldiers on field, she restores 2 points per round. Although not visible here, she also gains 3 stacks of Searing Flame due to the aforementioned thermal conduction buff. This essentially functions as a counter that goes up to 35, after which Lewis buffs the team's burn and crit damage. We will come back to this later. Note that this attack is not a support action, but rather its own active attack that triggers a support action from QJ, here applying damage up to Lewis due to QJ's V5. Volley Fire can occur once per tin soldier per round and cannot be triggered by out-of-turn attacks. Since they are not support attacks, their count doesn't increase by Vector's passive. As we let the attack continue, you can see that QJ indeed assists twice, once triggered by Vector and a second time by the tin soldier. Next up is Tololo. As noted before, by default tin soldiers only attach to burn type dolts. Due to Lewis's second fixed key, this limitation is removed and Tololo can carry a soldier and trigger Volley Fire with her attacks. This activates 2 more support actions from QJ, one from Tololo's attack and one from the tin soldier. Unlike Vector, who gained merit by dealing burn damage, Tololo does not gain any merit via her attacks. However, as the attack concludes, she does have 2 stacks. For this to happen, Lewis needs to equip another fixed key which grants 2 stacks at the end of the character's turn. Essentially, Lewis swaps her key setup between a monoburn and a mixed elemental lineup. Since the tin soldiers fire their volleys only alongside active attacks, you wouldn't want to attach a soldier to QJ. The key's effect synergizes with characters like Tololo or Nikita, who take multiple turns within a round. That way, they can max out merit for a rank up without having to deal burn damage at all. After her second attack, Tololo maxes out the merit stacks. As we near the end of the first turn, let's observe the tin soldier attached to Vector. As noted, when having 4 merit stacks at the end of the round, the soldiers receive a rank up. There doesn't appear to be an indicator of the current rank, but by zooming in and slowing down the footage, you can see some kind of level up animation. I believe there's also a bit more of an animation circling around the soldiers, but maybe I'm imagining things. Regardless, as the next turn begins, we can see that all merit stacks were consumed. The characters will still accumulate up to 4 stacks of merit after reaching the highest rank, but the stacks won't be consumed anymore. That said, this is what the soldier ranks do. Each level also includes the effects of the lower ones. At rank 1, Lewis gains 10% burn damage per soldier. At rank 2, she gains an additional 15% burn damage, or 25% including the rank 1 effect, plus 10% crit rate, and if at V6, 15% crit damage. Note that at V6, the soldiers immediately start at rank 2 for faster ramp up. Then, at rank 3, the soldiers will perform an additional volley fire before Lewis uses her ultimate, and at V6 they will also fire an extra volley after the character they've attached to ends their turn. These extra volley fires don't restore confectance points, but they do grant Searing Flame stacks. Since the Lewis in this showcase is V6, the soldiers reach their highest rank already on this second turn. Let us observe the impact of the rank 3 V6 upgrade. As Tololo makes her first attack, we get the usual volley fire due to the attached Tin Soldier. As you're aware by now, this occurs once per round when a character makes an active attack. However, after these support actions conclude and Tololo's turn ends, another volley is fired off. This is the effect of reaching the third rank when V6. At lower investment there would be no additional attack here. This bonus is especially relevant for characters with extra actions, as they technically end their turn multiple times per round. As you can see, after each of Tololo's attacks, another volley fire is added. Due to this synergy, Lewis is considered to be somewhat more relevant for the Hydra than the Burn lineup, as there hasn't been an impactful new Hydra character in quite some time. We're almost done with the Tin Soldier mechanic. The only thing left to address is the thermal conduction buff Lewis gained at the start of turn that makes each volley fire restore 3 stacks of Searing Flame. As I mentioned before, these stacks don't have an effect, but rather serve as a counter. By this point, the Tin Soldiers performed a total of 8 volley fires for 24 stacks of Searing Flame. Skipping ahead to the next round to Vector's action, the Searing Flame stacks reach 35. This is the critical threshold at which these stacks are consumed to apply Ember. This buff affects the whole team, granting 30% burn damage for 2 turns and a permanent 5% crit damage bonus that stacks up with each activation of Ember. Of course, before V6, the accumulation of Searing Flame is cripplingly slow. You need a total of 12 volley fires for 35 stacks to activate the buff. If Lewis is at least V2, you will need 4 rounds to gain Ember and 5 rounds before that, making it quite irrelevant at lower investment. At V6, the activation speed depends on the number of extra actions. With Tololo and a V1 Nikita, it is achievable every 2 rounds. And with that, the award for GFL's most complex passive goes to Lewis. The Tin Soldier mechanic also ties into her active skills, which we've put off long enough. Let's go back to the start of the match. Lewis begins by using her S2, which deals 140% of her attack as burn damage and 30% fixed damage, or 20% more of each if at least V3. Note that she makes her attack before Vector and Tololo. This is because her S2 confers the buff Tin Soldier's Order. At V3 and above, this boosts the damage of all volley fires by 50% for 3 rounds. Since the skill's cooldown is only 1 turn, Lewis benefits from this bonus permanently. Therefore, she attacks before her teammates on round 1, so that all subsequent volley fires have their damage boosted. Below V3, she only gains 2 stacks of the buff for 30% bonus damage, and each volley fire consumes 1 stack. Then, her turn order matters less because the buff will have 2 turns downtime. On the next round, Lewis uses her ultimate. At baseline, this costs 6 confectance points and deals 180% attack as burn damage. Each soldier's rank increases the damage by 15% and crit rate by 5% for a maximum bonus of 90% damage and 30% crit chance. Lewis's V2 and V5 grant more bonuses, such as higher multiplier and more crit damage, but most importantly her V2 lowers the confectance cost by 2 points. Then, the ultimate requires 4 points. Remember that Lewis only restores points via the 2 regular volley fires each round. Therefore, she requires 3 rounds to recharge her index. The cost lowering effect of her V2 upgrade enables her to cycle the ultimate every other round and slightly speeds up the generation of Ember. Aside from having the highest multiplier and damage bonuses in her kit, the ultimate also triggers extra volley fires when the soldiers are at rank 3. Of course, you knew this already because you were paying close attention before. To demonstrate, before the actual ultimate damage kicks in, the first volley fire from Tololo's Tin Soldier goes off. Then, Vector's Tin Soldier joins in as well. Irrespective of whether Lewis is V0 or V6, so long as the attached characters manage to accumulate 4 merit per round, you should benefit from these additional volley fires upon using her ultimate. That said, from V2 and above, you activate this effect 50% more often due to the faster rotation. Finally, the ultimate deals a good chunk of damage as well. At V6 and with 2 rank 3 soldiers on field, the attack has a 260% multiplier and benefits from a 90% damage boost, plus 30% crit chance and crit damage, and Lewis gains damage up 2 before the attack for 2 turns. The remainder of the fight simply loops the 2 abilities. You start with her as 2, followed by her ultimate, rinse repeat. This maintains the volley fire bonus and uses the ultimate when available for maximum damage. Lewis's S1 is just a directional AoE attack with a lower multiplier than the other abilities, but with overburn application. I can't show you the skill because it is not used past V2, and Lewis is another DPS character that doesn't see much play at low investment. If you're going to use Lewis at V1 or below, you will weave the S1 into the rotation, for instance by going from the S2 to the S1 to the ultimate. The order of the S1 and S2 is interchangeable, so use whatever makes most sense in the current battle. With that, it is time to move on to discuss Lewis's investment breakpoints. As usual, our focus is on the most meaningful upgrades. Most importantly, as you're aware by now, Lewis's V2 lowers the confectance cost of her ultimate, thereby speeding up her rotation. From then on, she gets to alternate the S2 and ultimate, and drops the S1 from her gameplay altogether. Next, her V3 changes Tin Soldier's order, the buff granted by her S2, to a fixed duration of 3 rounds, rather than having only 2 stacks. This isn't a major factor for Lewis's damage output, but removes one concern from her gameplay. Lastly, her V6 is the biggest improvement to her damage. Then, these soldiers will fire off additional volleys when the attached character ends their turn. This has great synergy with extra actions and significantly affects Lewis's DPS. Here's her power progression chart. From this, we can tell that only her V2 and V6 are relevant breakpoints. The V2 is a meaningful power spike because Lewis gets to use her ultimate 50% more, which also means more volley fires and slightly faster ember generation. The V6, as is often the case, provides the largest gain in damage and should be the goal if you go past her V2. This again provides more volley fires and at least doubles the ember speed. As far as I understand it, ReTempest doesn't include any extra actions in this calculation, meaning the damage improvement in this chart is a highly conservative estimate. In a Hydro Burn lineup with Trollo and a V1 Nikita, the V6 likely doubles the damage as compared to a V5 performance, if not more than that. Finally, note that the free-to-play weapon for the R0 comparison is Balthilde's MG, which is coming later for the global version. The Mjolnir from the Battle Pass performs at about 85% of the V0 R1 performance. That brings us to Lewis's signature weapon, the Toysmith. As just noted, due to a lack of MG alternatives, it outperforms the competition by at least 15%. It features a very high base attack of 390 and a valuable trait that grants up to 20% defense penetration when exploiting ammo and elemental weaknesses. The weapon's effect grants an unconditional 15% burn damage bonus, plus another 10% if 3 instances of burn damage are dealt per round. Without purchasing the Battle Pass, or before the arrival of Balthilde, the only other SSR MG option is Petya's Optical Illusion. Unfortunately, its attribute offers 25% crit rate, which is unnecessary for Lewis, who gains crit via her passive. This makes Optical Illusion perform almost 30% worse than Toysmith. That said, Lewis's V2 still has priority over her weapon, but then it's certainly worth considering. Continuing with her fixed keys. As noted before, her 2nd and 6th keys are used when you want to make her Tin Soldiers work with non-burn characters, most likely meaning the Hydro damage dealers. The 2nd key allows the Tin Soldiers to attach to non-burn type dolls and importantly, to fire off their volleys even when not dealing burn damage. This can become relevant for someone like Shakri, who deals physical damage every 3 rounds. The 6th key offers the only alternative means of earning merit when not dealing burn damage. Remember that merit is consumed to upgrade the soldier ranks. It can be used even with burn type dolls if they don't deal 4 instances of burn damage per round. Then, a 4th key provides 15% bonus damage when attacking targets with overburn and applies defense down 2, the common 30% defense reduction debuff. The latter part is only relevant when not running Lewis alongside QJ, but the bonus damage makes it valuable in virtually any situation. Keep in mind that Lewis only applies overburn with her S1, so without other sources like QJ or Vector, you may also want to equip her first fixed key. This makes Volley Fire apply overburn before their damage applies, meaning they also get to benefit from the 50% boost from key 4. You may use the first key regardless in a lineup where the Tin Soldiers are assigned to pure burn damage dealing dolls, as you won't need the 2nd key then. Lastly, the 3rd key grants buff removal to Lewis's S2 and ultimate, which is mostly useful in Gunsmoke. Only the 5th key is irrelevant as it provides a measly 2-tile range increase on her S2 and ult, making it an easy skip. In summary, Lewis is another DPS that does decent baseline damage and pops off at high investment. Her V6 damage is on par with other powerhouses, and unlike Shiwa, she is not tied to a mono-elemental lineup. That said, since the burn element is highly contested with a lot of characters to choose from, it's worth questioning what she brings to the table. Notably, she doesn't replace Shiwa as a team's main carry. In fact, you shouldn't see her as conflicting with Shiwa, as they either slot into different teams or work decently well together. At V6, she contributes a lot of damage, provides Ember that can be activated within 3 rounds for a team-wide 30% burn and 5% crit damage bonus, and once her soldiers reach rank 3, which they do from the second turn onwards, Lewis also provides somewhere between 5 up to 7 instances of burn damage to stack up Scorch Mark. All of these are great features, but unfortunately convert your formerly affordable burn team into a rather expensive endeavor. On the flip side, at low investment, her Ember generation is painfully slow, making the team buff almost irrelevant. She also doesn't deal quite enough damage or burn attacks to replace Sharkry. Since Sharkry is essentially free, Lewis either needs you to invest a bit more to make her relevant, or to mix and match her with other elements. Most notably, she pairs well with the Hydro characters due to their extra action mechanics that help stack up merit, and potentially trigger a great number of additional volifiers, though this requires again high investment. That said, at V6, it appears that she even prefers the Hydro over the burn team due to their incredible synergy. To this day, this setup is her prime use case. Lastly, Lewis provides defense down 2 and buff dispel, 2 qualities that are great for the Hydro team and theoretically enable her to replace QJ on a mono-burn lineup. But that's another essentially free character no one is looking to replace. Overall, if you were looking for an upgrade for your burn team, Lewis doesn't really have a place there unless highly invested, neither on global nor on CN. Obviously, if you have all the characters, there are multiple permutations of the burn team that can include Lewis, potentially allowing you to field 2 burn lineups. However, speaking from a cost-effectiveness standpoint, where you carefully choose which characters to pull and which to skip, Lewis is not strictly fulfilling a particular need. Here's a Gunsmoke team building guide from ReTempest for the current CN patch. As you can see, she's suggested as a V6 support for the Hydro team. In this setup, she's extremely powerful and competes with other meta-defining characters such as Voimastina or Kluke. However, unlike those characters, she's much less flexible and doesn't manage to carve out an elemental core role for herself. Case in point, the burn lineup features the newer characters Sakura and Lorelei, with Chiwa as a V6 support, while a lower invested Lewis is at best a QJ side grade. So unless you're planning to go all the way, or are really keen on having a new teammate for your Hydro core to play with, there's little reason to pull Lewis as of now. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. Hopefully, this guide helped you in better understanding Lewis's kit and role. There was admittedly a bit of back and forth when it comes to her overall account value, so I apologize if that ended up being more confusing than helpful. Let me know whether you've come to a decision on what's best for your account and what your pulling plans are. If you plan to go for her, which lineups are you looking to slot her into? And if you're skipping, who are you saving for instead? In any case, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.